Chrissy,
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Does Joker FOLIE À DEUX hate its audience? And Chrissy, I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Do you hate our audience?
No to... yes to one, no to the other. You'll have to find out which one which.
No, it's an interesting response. All right, well, I guess we should get started.
Well, I mean, movies are back.
Yeah, way back too.
Movies are back.
This is our second episode of Movies Are Back, a weekly news and review podcast where we have civil chats about film. I am your host, Christopher John, and with me is my co-host, Rhys Tarling.
How you doing, babies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very exciting. It's the second
yes.
episode. Our big episode this week. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of news. We will start it off with our news segment, What's Going On?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
So a few things to start, unfortunately. A couple of deaths.
Oh, more deaths?
Yeah.
God, this is a morbid podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, I wanted to get it over and done with the first so we can,
Who is it?
first off, Kristofferson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
88 years old, I
Died at
believe.
88, yes. Natural causes, as far as we know. I mean, it's just going to happen. Country music singer and songwriter. He was a member of the supergroup The Highwaymen with Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Willie Nelson.
Waylon Jennings is Shooter Jennings' dad.
Who's Shooter Jennings?
You don't know Shooter Jennings? Yeah, he does country songs.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look up a couple of his songs. They're really good.
Right, so
actually.
it's like country music royalty more than
I think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
anyway, Kristofferson is a Blades mentor.
Oh,
Which is
absolutely.
his most
I think
important role.
that would be the most sort of notable role, I think, for people sort of around our age.
Fucking loved him in those movies.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
Beloved actor from a lot of other 70s films. Most notably, he was in 3 Sam Peckinpah films, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, and Convoy. He was in Martin Scorsese's Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
One of his earlier movies.
Yeah, 1974. Scorsese had talked about how he was one of the best actors that he ever worked with, which...
Mentions him in A Taxi Driver.
Yes.
Sybil Shepherd.
Oh, that's right, he does. Yeah, they go to... don't they go to a record shop or something like that? Yeah. That's right. He does
He's
too.
part prophet, part pusher, a walking contradiction.
That's... Damn, okay. I've seen that movie many times. I don't know.
Oh, I've seen it too many times.
76's A Star Is Born, I think, was probably the most famous movie that he was a part of. I mean, it's on the poster with Barbra Streisand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that
Was that
version.
well received at the time, that one?
It was okay. It did pretty good financially, I think, because Barbara was still at that sort of peak
The
level.
Bradley Cooper one's like the most well regarded.
I would say that's the most successful.
There was like 4 of those.
Financially, I think the most well-regarded one is still the 54 one with Judy Garland.
Yeah, it goes back that far.
I would say that's the sort of...
Yep.
If you're going to rank all of them, I'd say that one consistently comes out pretty much at the top. He was also kind of had a bit of a career slump when he was in Michael Cimino's incredible anti-Western disaster Heaven's Gate. He was the star of that film, which was a enormous flop. Pretty much killed the new Hollywood movement.
He lived a long life, peaks and valleys.
Yes, exactly. He kind of plugged along after that, doing a lot of like bit roles in other movies and TV, and then kind of had a bit more of a resurgence as Whistler in the Blade trilogy. He was all 3 of those. Good on him.
He was in the 3rd one.
Yeah, he pretty much just
remember.
went, look, I'm tired, just kill me, I don't care. I know I've died like twice at this
I think I
point.
blocked that one out of my memory.
And so did
Memory
everyone
holder.
who's involved in it.
R.I.P. to
Yes.
Mr. Kristofferson.
Last film was Blaze, a movie directed by Ethan Hawke in 2018. I looked it up, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I will 100% be checking that one down.
Yeah.
As Zach Stentz put it on Twitter, the writer of X-Men First Class and Thor, he's also a prolific sort of writer now, he put it best about Kris Kristofferson, which was Golden Gloves boxer, Rhodes Scholar, helicopter pilot, activist, actor, singer, and one of the great songwriters of the 20th century. Farewell to a great American.
Yeah. Fucking man's man right there.
Oh, yeah. And incredible, very nice dude. There's a big clip that's been going around of him with how he defended Sinead O'Connor at the sort of the peak of her.
Oh, when it wasn't cool to do so.
No, well, she was getting booed mercilessly at a concert, like trying to right after she, ripped the picture of the Pope on SNL, and he came out and like consoled her, and then wrote a song about her, and they were friends right until now both of their lives. So it's unfortunate that they've passed away relatively close to each other. She Passed away
a couple of years ago.
It was last year, actually. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There you go, Zach. Kris Kristofferson passed away at 88. Next one was John Ashton. He was Detective Taggart in the Beverly Hills Cop movies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Which was a bit sadder for me, I think, because the new one, Axel F, just came out this year. So
I haven't seen that one yet.
No, it was good. It was all right. The Beverly Hills Cop movies are all kind of the same. The first one's the best. 2 is still pretty fun. He's in that one. He wasn't in 3 because it was awful, and I commend him for not being in 3. And yeah, he returned for Axel F on Netflix, which I thought was decent. As a fan of the franchise, I thought it was just okay, like a perfectly fine sort of 80s throwback type movie.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic in Midnight Run.
I love Midnight Run. That was my favorite movie when I was 13.
Yeah.
My dad showed it to me.
Yeah.
And I loved their fucking banter and friendship.
It's one of my dad's favorites.
It was the ideal. Like, I wanted to be in that movie and be with them in the desert.
Absolutely. I
loved it.
I still quote Midnight Run if I'm waiting at a bus stop.
Yeah.
And the bus is taking like 15, 20 minutes to come. I'll look at where I am, think, there's probably a bus stop like up to the road, and always say to myself the last line of the film, which is, well, looks like I'm walking, and I just walk to the next. I always say that. I always think about Midnight Run whenever I'm waiting for a bus. So he was the other.
The guy he was chasing, Robert De Niro was chasing.
Yeah, he was always on their tail, and
he was so sweet in that movie. I loved him in that movie.
He had this great look, which was sort of like rough and tumbled, but he didn't.
But he was a gentle guy.
Yeah, exactly. He had that sort of presence. So passed away 78, lengthy battle with cancer.
It's really sad.
He also had a couple of other movies, not especially well known as an actor, but probably more known for Beverly Hills Cop, but still, good innings anyway. And next one is John Amos.
Yeah.
Do you know John Amos?
Rings a bell. What has he done again?
Probably most notable for being the adult Kunta Kinte in the miniseries Roots, and James Evans Sr. in Good Times, but also probably most known, I think, to more people as Mr. McDowell in Coming to America.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Pretty much has been sort of up on that sort of pedestal as being like black royalty, like black TV comedy royalty, because Good Times was one of the first sort of families that people could watch on TV that represented African Americans in that way.
Sure. It's like the Cosby Show.
Yeah, it was this was like 74, so it was before the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show kind of like ran on from that sort of point. Good Times was a spin-off of All in the Family, which is all kind of connected in this sort of weird little it was like a cinematic universe, but on TV, essentially. This was all Norman Lear, who was kind of like the king of American TV comedy in the 70s. I haven't watched any of these shows, but I just know of this. He was also known for being on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The West Wing. He was also in Beastmaster and Die Hard 2. So very interesting body of work. A lot of other movies and TV shows. Unfortunately, I don't know all of them, but passed away at 84. He actually passed away in August, but it wasn't announced until just early this month. So it's like a sort of little period for his family to kind of come out with that information. Look, a little bit of a dark sort of territory, but we'll move on from there with some more
What's up next?
Uplifting stuff. We did get some confirmation. This is related, I guess, to Countdown to James Gunn's Superman. No Superman news itself, but did you see the announcement about Dynamic Duo?
What?
Yeah, so this is going to be a film about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. So it's going to be two Robins. That's the story. And it's a collaboration with DC Studios and Warner Brothers with the animation from Swaybox, which is this sort of...
So it's an animated movie?
Yeah, fully animated. But the guys who do it, Swaybox, they use... I've seen their test reel. It looks really, really cool.
Is it Nightwing and Robin or Robin and Robin?
I think it might just be Robin and Robin, I guess.
Wow.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
It could be Nightwing.
It'd have to be Nightwing.
It'd have to be Nightwing and Red Hood, or they could do two Robins at the same time, I guess. I'm not too sure.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So is this going to be in continuity with his DC universe or like a standalone?
I would say so, the same way that Creature Commandos is. How that's like an animated series that will have some elements.
Because his Batman is going to be like a dad already.
Yes, to Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne's going to be in
So I think that might end up telling sort of like a side story of like if his Batman's doing this, where are the other guys? What are they doing?
That's really cool because people who don't know in the know, like Dick Grayson and Jason Todd are both Robins, but their personalities are so different.
Yeah.
they would be like a fun matchup.
Yeah,
Even without Batman.
yeah.
They'd have a lot of friction and stuff like that.
If they've confirmed now that Damian Wayne is going to be Batman Brave and the Bold, Robin there, because that's the story
that's
they're
what
telling.
they're saying.
And now we've got Dick Grayson and Jason Todd doing this in this sort of story. My question is, where's Tim Drake? He's my favorite Robin, to be honest, because I was always.
Of course, the blandest Robin is your favorite.
He was the Robin from mainly from the sort of follow-on Batman animated series after Dick Grayson became Nightwing. He was more of the Robin there.
He was.
I always like him because he is, I would say, the purest Robin, because he kind of stayed Robin for a lot longer. He's kind of been more Robin in a lot of like continuities, because Dick Grayson always becomes Nightwing and Jason Todd ends up falling down to being Red Hood.
Tim Drake is the most detective-like.
That's what I'm thinking.
Most like Batman.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to where he might be involved. What's really interesting about this film is going to be Swaybox Animation. They use a mix of CGI, puppetry, and live-action real-time performance capture.
That's how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
You should see the test footage. It is very, very interesting.
It sounds like they want to push the boundaries like Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're kind of probably definitely looking for that. They don't want to just
shit out like a average-looking animated movie. That's cool. I'm so down with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, dude, I've watched most of the DC animated stuff from Warner Brothers Animation, and it's getting cheaper. It's getting so bad.
They've been slacking hard on it for like decades now.
The Tomorrowverse, as they've called it.
That shit sucks.
Awful. Just awful.
Just like, it's always, the way they do it, it's like, they say their lines, there's a pause, and then they say their lines again, and it's not dynamic or fun to watch.
Yeah, it's so poorly edited.
Yeah, it is. It's like there's a lot of dead space.
And I feel like after, what was it, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which was the sort of finale of that continuity that was all related to Justice League War and the death of Superman, which I liked that sort of story. I like
that one.
That was great. When that happened, they switched it over to the Tomorrowverse stuff, and every time I've seen their animated films, it just looks way cheaper, like animated. There's sort of like heavy dark lines. I don't know
looking.
Why. I saw some clips of what they did with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
Holy hell, it looks awful.
Not watching that.
I have no idea what's happening at all. And a lot of people were just complaining, being like, this is just nonsense. So I'm happy for them to now say, look, we might not be doing as much of the direct-to-DVD stuff as we've done before. We're going to probably
They should do none of that.
No, I think they're going to be putting...
devaluing the fucking brand.
Exactly. I think they're going to put more value into weird, crazy, unique types of animation that actually draws people out and go, oh, that looks different. I actually want to give that a little bit more of my time. We're seeing that with DreamWorks, with The Wild Robot. That's
don't do half-hearted adaptations of famous comic book stories. Like, do original stories.
Look, The Killing Joke, that's still...
Like, that's what I mean.
That still
horrible.
Hurts. It still hurts.
Fucking offensive movie.
Yeah, absolutely awful.
You made me mad bringing that up. Made me fucking mad.
Do you want to be happier?
Yeah, what?
All right, next news piece. Daniel Day-Lewis has returned.
Yes, he's going to be in his Boys movie.
Yes.
His son is directing something.
It's a movie that
got out of his shoe cobbler cave, did he?
Yeah, well, he did the shoe cobbler thing like years ago. I don't know if he's still doing that. He might. Who cares? But he's
a craftsman.
Yes, exactly. He's very dedicated in that way. He's always been known for that. So he's returning in the film Anemone, which he has co-written with his son Roman Day-Lewis, who's now directing it. There was some leaked sort of like filming sort of shots that the Daily Mail had reported on first, and they got the title of the film wrong because I think it was like the shooting title.
Wait, the Daily Mail got something wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, surprise, surprise. No, they're always right. What are you talking about? And they are always so correct about who's pregnant and who's dating who. But yeah, they broke the news story of Daniel Day-Lewis's return, which I think Variety and all those places was like, damn it. They beat us to it. How do we get beat by the Daily Mail?
Very embarrassing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm very excited to that because Daniel Day-Lewis is
so exciting.
It's one of the best, absolutely.
Best there is, best there ever was, best there will be.
Anemone is being described as an exploration of the intricate relationships between fathers, sons, and brothers, as well as the dynamics of familial bonds.
Look, it could be about the guy who invented the sponge, and if Daniel Day-Lewis is playing him, it's going to be the fucking excellent and riveting.
I would love to see this kind of be a throwback to his sort of earlier films when he was doing like In the Name of the Father.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
with Jim Sheridan. Like that's how he started really, like making a name for himself was like really sort of grounded, gritty dramas in that way. Not always these sorts of like intense character pieces, which he's still great at, but I'd like to see him do something in this way, like something smaller, which I'm very excited about. Do you want another one? Do you want another news story?
Yeah, is it good?
Well, sort of. It's an interesting point. There was a new Variety article tackling toxic fandom.
Oh, this.
Yes.
You mean, okay, let me guess. People, they make pieces of shit. Fans don't like it and they're toxic.
In a sense, it's more of... there is definitely an argument to be made that... because if it focused on Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Bridgerton, and House of the Dragon...
Oh, you mean things they're fucking up?
Well, as in stuff where they've done new stuff for... and then,
which sucks.
Well, yeah, regardless of quality, like immediately, because, you know, for like Lord of the Rings, they go, oh, here's a bunch of hobbits or whatever, and a couple of them just happen to be black or Asian.
No,
and then
Chrissy, we're going to disagree here.
Yeah.
I hate that, and I don't hate it because I'm racist.
No.
I hate it because it's disingenuous.
Right.
It's like they're doing it because they have like a quota.
Well, yeah, I think
corporately dictated and it's disingenuous.
And that's where it becomes a problem, because they also, like, they were pointing out how it kind of goes back to the 2016 Ghostbusters, where, all right, you've got this brand new cast and they pointed this out in the article, that they got this brand new cast and it's all female.
Yeah.
And because the Ghostbusters fandom is, sure, there's definitely some good people out there, but it got overridden by loud negative people who hated it the minute that they saw a trailer for it. Before the movie even came out, and guess what? It was fine. It
sucked.
I thought it was fine. It wasn't terrible.
Funny. It wasn't funny. It went on forever. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's Paul Feig. That's not them. That's
but
Paul
here's
Feig.
what I'm saying. Like, these losers on the internet who are like saying disgusting things.
Yeah.
I'm so not with them. But I think a lot of the anger or the dissatisfaction is, a lot of it's legitimate.
Some of it, I think, well, there's some of it that is legitimate, but then you've got like House of the Dragon, for example, where, sure, maybe the second season just wasn't good, was kind of boring, but a lot of people started yelling about the fact that, was it the main character, Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
Yeah, how she kisses a woman.
That was stupid.
Really? Okay.
That came out of nowhere. It has nothing to do with Rhaenyra's character in the book or in the show. And it just felt thrown in there because they had, I don't know, they didn't want to really adapt the book.
Yeah.
Or they adapted like a small bit of it and filled it out. So like you can sense the fucking like I said, the disingenuousness of it. Like trying to create this thing that's, you know, not from a real place of pushing the narrative forward or being interesting. And yeah, like people who respond like with, you know, misogyny and racism and stuff, like it's an ugly expression. Yeah. But I think that fundamentally, a lot of people just feel like this is insulting, like what you're doing.
If there is an argument to be made about quality, the problem, I think that they get into this in the article, that, you know, there is some argument about quality, sure. If people aren't really happy where the stories just aren't satisfying the same way that they might have been expecting or used to a certain extent.
It is, because let me tell you, like, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
But so right now in The Penguin, the main villain is a woman, Sophia Falcone. You're not hearing like any like vitriol or like girl boss like you know what I mean? Because she's a woman. Do you know why? Because she's convincing and it's well written. Yeah. And people believe it. Yeah. And she's actually the best part of the show.
That's a good point, because The Penguin, as far as I know, I looked this up as well, like it's got a sort of equal creative team of male and female writers and directors as well.
Yeah, and like nobody's against that, like because it's well done.
Yeah.
So when it's done well,
that's a good point.
It's they're like, yes, please more.
I think that's the issue, is that when you have things that aren't very good, like, you know, we've talked about this off air, that, and the article goes into this as well. It named also like The Acolyte as something else, where I didn't like the show. Honestly, I just wasn't really a fan of it. I tried watching every single episode and just got to the end and went, that was nothing. But I would never say it is absolutely because of Leslie Headland is a terrible person and she shouldn't be working again. Obviously, she just didn't really make something that I enjoyed, or a lot of other people didn't really enjoy. But I would never say that it's absolutely because it features people of color. Like Lee Jung-jae was 100% best performance on the whole show.
Yeah.
And he's an Asian man. Like, he's an Asian lead of this show.
But I think, like, obviously you have a subsect of people saying racist shit.
And they end up taking over from the narrative. And this is what the article gets into, is that executives mostly try and ignore it because they realize that it is, and were the one of the bosses of Star Trek TV, or sort of Star Trek Entertainment as it is under Paramount.
Kurtzman.
No, it wasn't Kurtzman. It was some other, like, Jeff something or other. But he made a very good point, which is most of the people that are watching our stuff are not the absolute diehards. They're casual people who go, oh yeah, I know Star Trek. I'll watch whatever new show's on. They might watch Picard because they might have seen a couple of episodes of Next Generation, or they'll watch Strange New Worlds because it's fun.
Or they
and bright.
like the Abrams movies.
Yeah, something like that. If they, well, that's me. Honestly, I have watched all of the Star Trek movies, but I've only just watched the original series. But I would like to watch Strange New Worlds, for example, because I've seen the trailers and I've heard that it's actually really good. I would say I would probably put myself into that category of casual Star Trek fan. I'm more of a diehard of Star Wars.
So what's that got to do with the article?
But it's as he points out, that's the main people that are watching this stuff. The people that come out and start spitting the vitriol and the hate, they are a much smaller portion of the fan base, so small that they don't really have to care about them even on a monetary standpoint, because if they say, oh, we're boycotting this show, guess what, it doesn't really mean anything, because they know that it's still going to have the numbers elsewhere from casual fans who don't pay attention to that.
Not for the Acolyte. They cancelled that shit.
Well, the Acolyte, that's where you get into a problem where even if the show's not good enough, it sends the wrong message for the people that already hated that show before it even was released at all. Like, we've given it our time. We gave it a shot.
Yeah.
We didn't really like it. That's fair. But people like Star Wars Theory, they were hating that show from day dot. They automatically hated it because they found out that a black woman was leading it.
He's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
He hated Andor.
Yeah, well, there you go.
What does he know?
Well, that's the problem. But he has a very, and this is the other issue that I have.
His taste is so simple. It's like a child.
Yeah, he doesn't like anything. What he likes, it's a manipulation. It's all kind of like, he knows what he should and shouldn't.
He wants to see Anakin Skywalker holding a blue lightsaber and holding a red lightsaber and fucking fighting whoever. He'll cream his pants over that.
He's making his own fan film, and he's released images of it look awful.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's not worth watching.
No. But what he does, unfortunately, is that he feeds into what YouTube does, which is hate and vitriol is much more profitable than positivity. And that's what I like to do with this podcast, at least. I want to kind of keep it at that sort of positive level, where even if we have a disagreement, I don't want us to be starting like yelling and shouting at each other about like racist stuff. Like, that's just not what I want to do. But he knows that if he does that, he will get hundreds of thousands, even not
millions of views. He's incentivized to hate shit, and that is a problem. Is the incentive to like spread negativity, like rage baiting, is so strong.
That's what it is, and that all stems back as well from Last Jedi. Because Last Jedi did what it did, like, not a lot of people were doing this sort of rage-baiting, absolute hate train for Force Awakens and Rogue One. By the most metric, most people did enjoy that. But because The Last Jedi was as divisive as it was for a lot of the fan base, some of it is legitimate. Some people actually just had a big problem with it.
Yeah.
My dad just had a big problem with certain things that they did, liked some of it, didn't like other pieces. But the people that might have been on that sort of fence then got radicalized by other people who expressed very negative opinions, and then YouTube propped them up, gave them a bunch of money.
We're in a polarized time for everything.
Yeah, well, that's
the problem. Like, this is just one part of that spread.
So we're seeing that effect, that polarization, that sort of heavy sort of political... art itself is politics, obviously. But because now the politics that gets expressed in art is now being co-opted by actual politicians as forces for hate.
Yeah.
That then affects the things that we're watching. So now we're going to start seeing the after effects, which is not so much things like Andor or The Last Jedi, where if for Star Wars they take risks. You're going to start seeing more and more stuff like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, where it's so sanitized and it's so
inoffensive.
It's so constructed by the studio. The problem with that is the fans will still not like that, because they'll just look at it and say, what is this?
It's not about giving the fans what they want. It's about giving them something they didn't know they wanted.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to figure out. So you got to, sometimes you try things and it doesn't work. which is what we're going to be talking about later.
Later on, yes, with our main film for the episode.
Yeah, should we transition to that yet?
There was a couple of other things I wanted to get into, just more positive, I guess. We'll move on from this point.
Yeah.
But the main thing that they had pointed out was they're now assessing ways to look at focus groups for superfans. For them to, this is the actual quote. There was news that studios are doing focus group testing with clusters of superfans to assess possible marketing materials for franchise projects. Quote, they're very vocal. They will just tell us, if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. If it's early enough and the movie isn't finished yet, we can make those kinds of changes.
This just shows they'll never get it. This is so anti-art.
Exactly.
Like, they're completely lost. And they're listening to the worst people on the internet.
Absolutely.
And they want them to shape what we're going to see. And fuck that. It's already bad and it's going to get worse. Fuck all this.
Yeah, it's bad. Even if we disagree about certain aspects of how these things are done creatively, you still shouldn't do this. You should still take
Don't
risks.
surrender your fucking agency, for Christ's sake. Like,
There we go. You got it from Rhys. Are you going to listen to Rhys? No, but he's still going to talk anyway. That's fine.
You're fucking right, I'm going to talk.
Do you want to do trailer trash? I got a new sort of segment. This is new trailers that we got for a bunch of new stuff, like really sort of promising stuff out there.
Like what?
Very weird trailer for Better Man, Robbie Williams' biopic.
They're doing a Robbie Williams biopic?
So-
Wait, the singer.
Yes, the singer. Do you know the twist of this one? So it's the Robbie Williams sort of
it's
story.
going to make me cringe, isn't it?
No.
Is it?
It's the weirdest pitch I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Robbie Williams' story, from a kid rising up, becomes a member
typical.
of... member
Think
of...
about his whole life before he goes on stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except the entire time, he is being portrayed as a CGI ape, like in Planet of the Apes.
What the fuck?
I'll tell you what, though. On a log line, that sounds weird. The trailer, however, looks insane.
That is so weird. I got to watch that trailer.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that is definitely in the line, not in the Bohemian Rhapsody,
No, it's not
Bob Marley type line where it's just boring,
mindless
Yeah,
Hallmark movie. Okay.
this one to me,
That does sound interesting.
Looks-
It's so wacky.
yeah, it looks on the same level as Rocket Man, where it's
liked Rocket Man.
It's the Elton John story, but it's a jukebox musical.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do these sort of very famous, very popular pop stars, you need to have a twist. You
That's
need to
why
have
I liked
something.
I'm Not There.
Yes.
And that's why this new Bob Dylan one is going to be fucking forgettable.
Oh,
It
that's
looks
right.
just like the most down-the-line, generic...
I like Timothy. I like James Mangold.
I'm yet to be convinced he would be Bob Dylan, but
Did you like Walk the Line?
I did really like that. But I saw it a long time ago.
Yeah, it's that one kind of.
But you can't apply that to Bob Dylan.
No.
Like, they're different artists.
Yeah.
You have to do something weird with Bob Dylan. He's very mercurial and he's had many personas, like David Bowie almost.
Yeah, this one looks to be very focused.
Just him in the village, I think, when his career's
sort
starting.
of like
the
early
most
sort of part.
boring fucking story you could do, probably.
Yeah. So we'll see about that one. But yeah, Better Man looks bizarre.
Cool, that's a good idea.
Apparently it's good. Good reviews have already
Alright.
come out for a couple of the.
It's a
film
take.
festivals.
You got to
Yes.
say that. It's a take.
We also got new trailers for Paddington in Peru.
Yes, going to
Hooray.
see that. It's going to be great.
Yes. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
Yeah, well, Lily Rose Depp's in that, right?
Yes. There was supposed to be Anya Taylor-Joy, but she looks... Yeah. Lily Rose Depp, I've yet to see her be, like, truly exceptional. She's been in some terrible films. She was in Voyages a couple of years ago with Ty Sheridan. That was a horrifyingly bad
She
film.
was in that embarrassing HBO show, The Idol.
Yes, that's right. She was too. Yeah. So she definitely needs something like this to really push people over the edge to go, oh, okay, don't worry. She can do stuff. Because
I think she tries, but she has no talent.
I think you need someone like a Robert Eggers, who is a very uncompromising director, to get that out of an actress like that, to really push them to that limit, to really get that.
I think she has no talent. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, the jury's out. You've been here a while, but I'm yet to see something from you. Hopefully, Nosferatu has it. But yeah, a remake of Nosferatu, excellent. Look,
Cool.
it's been 100 years. It's fine to do another version of it. Werner Herzog has his, and Robert Eggers is just a brilliant filmmaker. So I'm very excited for that.
All right.
The last one was the first looks at the Russo brothers' $320 million budgeted. Oh boy, Rhys
Fucking
is...
sick of them.
You okay? No?
Gag.
The movie The Electric State, which is based off it's not a graphic novel, but it's like a very large, I don't want to say picture book. It's a weird thing. It's like a graphic novel, but it's like the size of like those Art of Star Wars or Art of Dune books. Like it's a huge sort of book, and every page is just these beautifully drawn pictures of a dystopian world where animatronics have kind of taken over essentially, and they become sort of like the dominant sort of force in the world. And it looks all like concept art, but it tells a story through that book. The same artist did Tales from the Loop, which then became an Amazon series.
It's going to be $300 million?
$320 million Netflix movie.
How the fuck do they make a profit off this? Like,
they don't. Essentially, they don't.
Why do they do it?
Because they can get people to sign up for Netflix.
But it's so finite.
So details about this movie. It stars Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt.
Oh, great. She sucks.
Hooray! Yeah, I don't like her either.
No.
And this is their logline, set in an alternate history where Walt Disney's Disneyland animatronics led to intelligent robots who revolted against their creators. The problem with this is, as I explained, the book, I've seen pictures of it, like the actual images, incredible. Some truly beautiful artwork that's being used. And the movie, the first look images, look like the blandest, most boring Netflix movie that if you type into, AI generator or whatever, Netflix movie, this is what you're going to get.
Have they lost touch with humanity? Like all these people, like just making these movies that nobody could be interested in.
No,
this sounds horrible.
Yeah, most likely it will be because The Grey Man sucked and
Cherry sucked.
Cherry was awful. But hey, look, they're coming back for the Avengers. Hooray! Robert Downey Jr.'s back. Marvel's not desperate.
Great. Let's get our finest middle managers on the job.
Oh boy, yeah. So that's going to definitely be something. It's out next year. It's like
something you'll forget about in a fucking week.
Netflix, all they want to do, and this is exactly what the CEO wants to do, is he wants to kill theaters because he was a kid who grew up watching movies on TV. So he has no love for theaters whatsoever, which is why the Netflix theater in LA is terrible and people don't like it because it's just this bare basics thing that they put films into.
At least Netflix movies are great. At least they make great movies.
Actually, you know what? End of the show. I will actually... they've released some dog shit films this year. Absolutely horrible. Bottom of the barrel garbage. Except one that I did watch recently. But that's a little... We're getting ahead of ourselves
right there. Twice a day.
Do you want to move on?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so this is The Thing.
Joker, FOLIE À DEUX.
Yes, but we only just started this podcast a week ago, so we have never talked in a sort of main sort of place about the first movie.
Yeah, let's quickly go over that.
Yes, thoughts.
So the first movie, obviously, it came out at the right time in culture. I think it really got people excited, and the take on it seemed pretty cool.
Yeah, the sort of height of like comic book movies. Or something like that.
Yeah. I remember when they announced the movie, and in my head, all they had announced was, it's going to be set in the 80s, it's going to be about the Joker, and it's going to be like in a Scorsese milieu. And in my head, I'm like, we'll get a movie where he's, taking out the mob, he becomes fucking the king at the end.
Yeah, like
and maybe
he'll
hear about a Batman and he'll smile maniacally, and that'll be the end of the movie, like a reverse of Batman Begins.
That sounds like a great movie. Is that the one that we got?
No. It wasn't that at all.
No, not at all.
No. So the Joker movie, I liked it. It came out at a time when actually I was living in another country. I was living in Tokyo, and I was a few months in there, and I was definitely feeling like the urban isolation. Feeling like nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
And when I saw that movie, it resonated with me at that moment. Like I definitely, obviously my life wasn't that bad, but I guess the emotional landscape of the movie, like I was like, I'm kind of here. Like I understand it, and it but obviously a very like nihilistic movie. Really had some cool iconic moments for sure. The stare bit, the talk show.
Yeah. Most of the stairs I would argue is the
But I'd say for all its kind of air of prestige, it's very like not clunky. What's the word? Just very obvious and shallow.
Yeah.
I think it was quite pretentious.
Yeah.
And I think a marvelous Joaquin Phoenix performance holds it together. Like His
Yep.
Arthur Fleck and his Joker, it's like Christopher Reeve level Superman and Clark Kent.
Okay.
I can't believe that's him in the makeup. Like
That is true. I will agree with you there.
just the imagery of him like smoking and dancing. That's original. It felt like, oh, this is something new to the character, and it
That is
fits
true, yeah.
so well. It's so cool. And
I think the visuals of Joker smoking, we could never really have that in any Batman movie
no,
beforehand.
it was never in the comics.
No.
But it felt so right seeing it.
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, it just worked so well. And the ending was, quite cathartic, obviously. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the movie, but I understand people who don't dig it, But I fall on the side of liking it.
That would be me.
Yeah.
It's not that I hate this movie.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out and I wasn't buying into any of the real hype. Like and we talked about this, like there was too much sort of manipulated controversy of, oh, is this going to incite violence or something like that? And I guess in some ways you could definitely see how, sure, the existence of a Joker movie could definitely be correlated to, for example, actual violence, like with the Aurora shooting that happened around The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, sure.
Guy dressed up as the Joker goes into a movie theater and commits awful violence there. So on that level, sure, you've got to, if you want to be like the Aurora theater where that happened, they didn't show the movie Joker back in 2019. Fair enough. I understand that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other sort of articles and talking points that were being raised by some pretty, I would say, bottom of the barrel journalists, I never bought into that
Such
sort of
a
thing.
jerk off.
Yeah, it's such a boring
It was
thing
almost
to
like
say.
they wanted something to happen. That's what it felt like.
Well, it's like we were just talking about this as well. Like it's the same thing with challenges this year, where people are buying into this idea of, ooh, is this movie going to break up Zendaya and Tom Holland's relationship because she's kissing another man on screen? It's like, that's called acting. Movies are fake, right?
I can see that, but this was another level of like hysteria.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like the fact that this dude is doing what he's doing on screen and being the Joker character, a madman, psychopath, murderer. That doesn't mean he's actually shooting Robert De Niro in the face. Just so you know. And the people, I think, they started correlating reality with fiction in a lot of ways, because we are in a very sort of heightened time with violence in the United States, for example. Like it is on that sort of level that you want to be a little bit more careful, sure. But this movie just wasn't, I didn't see that in this film.
Like I said, I liked it, but I do agree philosophically, I disagreed with the movie because I'm just like, well, why do you want us to feel bad for the Joker?
And that's my problem, yeah.
Why not just go, I mean, it was almost like an attempt to make the Joker himself as a character it's scary. Like this guy who does all these things for laughs, you know? And they're reframing it like, well, he's doing these things to lash back at his tormentors. Yep. And I'm like, this has zero to do.
And that was and that's I rewatched this movie just before the day before I saw the second one, and my main thing is I just don't feel anything for it. I don't respond to the pity thing that the movie obviously wants us to feel for the Joker. Like he's doing the stairs thing, and initially it's meant to be cool, which also terrible use of a Gary Glitter song. Look him up. Horrible stuff. Why did you use that song? But then it's also supposed to be, oh, it's dark. You're supposed to feel sorry for him. Like the music is meant to evoke a sense of pity in some way for this character.
Yeah, that theme is like it's like a blaring siren of feel bad for him.
Yeah,
how horrible is this?
And I just never responded to that. I saw it as very false and kind of hollow in some way. I never responded to the actual direction of the story. Joaquin Phoenix, great performance, but even then, I think it's definitely got caught up by a lot of awards hype. It got nominated for 11 Academy Awards, which that's way too much. Score and actor, sure. Thoroughly deserved, and the wins, I would say so. The win for Hilda Guanadotir is fantastic. If I bungled her last name, I apologize. I did my absolute best. It's Icelandic. It's got that weird D with the little tick on the top.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a D. I think it might be a G. No idea.
Yeah.
But thoroughly deserved win for her score. Joaquin Phoenix, I think it was definitely one of those due narratives. Like he had been nominated or had done such great work in so many other films beforehand. But I would look at like The Master or You Were Never Really Here as his two best performances. I don't really see Joker as on that level.
Yeah, but the Academy Award, you know how it is.
It's a recency bias more than anything. They have a very short
and that performance is it's not his best acting, it's his most acting.
Exactly.
And that's what gets rewarded, like the most of something.
Yeah, so I just never really responded to this movie as much.
And,
the idea of a
yeah.
sequel, however,
Well, yeah, the sequel, I'd heard, it's going to be a musical, it's going to be Harley Quinn.
my initial idea, so with your idea where it was supposed to be, you heard Scorsese might be involved.
Not
So-
involved, but like,
Well, he was.
in that-
He was at one point. He was supposed
Yeah,
to be
more-
producer, but
yeah.
then went, "Nah, I'm good. I'll do other
Yeah.
stuff." I think he was doing The Irishman, and he ended up
yes,
kind of focusing more on that.
That's right.
But Scorsese influenced type of film, sort of Joker's rise and fighting with gangsters or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what you thought the Joker movie was going to be when they announced for Folie à Deux that was it deux or Dieu?
Dieu.
Dieu. We don't speak French. I'm sorry. It's fancy. French is meant to be fancy, right?
Don't get me started.
So
Fucking...
was that the West?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, there's this like little, sorry, brief diverge. They do a review of Folie à Deux, and the reviewer writes, Folie à Deux is a fancy French way of saying, and I'm like, is it fancy French or just regular fucking French?
Is it just French? Yeah.
It's just French.
French is a language. That
It's a
doesn't
language.
necessarily
It's
make it
not
fancy. Yeah. Oh my god.
Fuck off.
So stupid. It's such a very small way of looking at things.
It's just so fucking cringe. Anyway, let's continue.
So I thought when they announced, musical set in Arkham Asylum,
Yes.
and it was going to involve Lady Gaga, I imagined that this movie would be on the same sort of budgetary level as the first film, and it would be entirely set in Arkham Asylum, and it would just be like Joker and Harley like slowly getting to like connect, and they keep pushing them apart, and they slowly come back together, and they keep doing the songs or whatever about love or about, and there's maybe other characters that have their songs, like it's a proper musical inside Arkham Asylum, and it ends with them like breaking out or something like that. That was my initial idea.
I thought it was going to be a Natural Born Killers kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Like they get out early.
I think that could work. Oh yeah, something like that.
And then
yeah.
like there's like Clockwork Orange and Natural Born Killers kind of
Oh,
influence.
Clockwork Orange would have been
Bonnie and Clyde, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That
but
seemed to be sort of the obvious way to go.
that is
And
not where they went.
You can say a lot for this movie. It's not the fucking obvious choices.
No, I didn't expect a lot of what happened here, and not necessarily for the better.
No, it's not for the better. Yeah,
You
so
had-
basically this movie is in the vein of so the first one was kind of a character study, I suppose, and this one is like a courtroom drama and a prison drama.
And it's also trying to be a romance film,
Kind of.
sort of.
I wrote a review of it actually, and I wrote it kind of flits between prison drama and courtroom drama. But
I don't think it does either particularly
yeah, well, I said Todd Phillips can't shape it into something really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, well, that goes to my problem with the first film, and now it's kind of reflected now into the second. As I said, I didn't really respond to the direction because I just don't really like Todd Phillips as a filmmaker. I don't think he offers enough ingenuity as a director. And that was the issue with the first film for me, was how he's obviously pulling from, mentioned like Scorsese influenced. Scorsese was almost a producer, and he was very upfront in saying that Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy kind of inspired the first film's depiction of the main character.
Yeah.
And as massive fans of not only Scorsese's filmography, directorial style, but of those two films, when I watch Joker, I just don't see anything new. And also, I'm a fan of the character as well. And it kind of feels like a new direction for Joker cinematically to show him, in this sort of hard R way. But as a movie on its own, I couldn't really respond to it because I just looked at it and went, this is just a boiled down version of other better films that I've seen before.
I think, yeah, and the problem with it is on rewatches for me is that it's just got this continuously grinding one note of misery.
Yeah.
But I think in showing someone losing their mind, it can be a little bit funny. Like it can be kind of absurd, and they're a little afraid to go. They're really afraid to go like absurd with it.
Did you find that the sequel was funnier? There were some moments.
Some moments that were quite funny.
Yeah, because there's a bit where he kind of signs a book for a guard.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, Joker's going to be put on the death penalty or whatever.
So this signed book would be worth a lot, and then he just like changes what he's going to write, and he's like, "I hope you get cancer."
Yeah, something like that. I was like,
Look,
"That's
that
actually
line
funny."
that line is lifted from The King of Comedy, but it was a funny.
It is too.
It's a funny.
Oh my god! So even the actual funny part of the film is just from another movie.
No, but when he calls the judge Your Majesty, I was like, That's a Joker line.
Okay, that's fine.
That was funny.
Yeah. But he's again.
But
he's
it's still, this movie is even more of that grinding, miserable note.
and it's longer and it's significantly less interesting because unlike
Which is weird because there's more going on.
oh yeah, there's a lot
but
more
it's
going on.
a lot more. It's dull. Like, it's a lot more boring.
And the other issue is that instead of the first film where it was a very focused character study, now you have to, because they want to go in this direction, they have to also focus on Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, which
Right.
I think that she did a good job with what she was given, which was increasingly less and less as the film went on for some reason. Like, she gets introduced and she seems to be so important to his character. But then they try and escape, and then it goes to the courtroom stuff, and then suddenly she's just pushed off into the background, and she's basically relegated to just being in the fantasy musical sequences, which, sure, Lady Gaga, we know that she can do that, but I was waiting for her to have that moment where she really kind of changes the whole story, but she doesn't. She just kind of sits there
I feel like
looking at stuff.
she should have had something to do with the bomb at the end, because there's a
Absolutely,
bomb that
yeah.
explodes.
A little bit of spoilers. It's in the trailer,
It's
actually.
spoilers. Who cares? This is all
That's in
spoilers.
the trailer, though.
Yeah, but I feel like she should have made that bomb
Absolutely.
to get him out or something.
Yeah, which she doesn't do. There you go.
Which he doesn't do. And there's a scene where they're both coming down the steps and doing the iconic dance down the steps.
That's in the trailer.
It's
though.
in the trailer,
Yeah.
not in the movie.
No, it's on
and
the
then you
film.
watch the movie and you're like, where could this have possibly happened?
I thought about this. I think that bit that's in the trailer of them both doing the big kick down the
Yeah.
stairs, I think that was a musical sequence that would have happened towards the end of the film, like when they kind of reconcile. But I think they cut that because here's the big thing. They want this to be a big musical, which they said one of the influences was One from the Heart.
Yeah.
The Francis Ford Coppola giant box office bomb that almost completely killed his career. Yeah. Great influence there. A movie that not many
like
people
live
see.
singing and
Sort of, in that way, which is... Okay, this is a bit of a rant here, but the live singing thing, which they wanted to do for this film, that is definitely a holdover from the Tom Hooper way of making musicals, which is, I don't understand musicals. I actually don't really like them. I want to make them more real, even though that's not what a musical is. A musical is heightened theatricality. The idea that you have thoughts inside that you want to express, but you can't use words, so you use song and dance and all that sort of stuff. That is not real. You have to have that suspension of disbelief that works on the theater, and it has worked for film for almost the entire time that film has existed. For as long as film has been around, or sound film has been around, we've had musicals.
yeah, it just felt like they liked the idea of it being a musical, but they didn't take that concept nearly far
They
enough.
kept saying that it wasn't a musical in the
They kept
interviews.
saying it wasn't, and
They're
I'm
saying,
like,
oh, it's a movie with music where people use music to express their feelings. I'm like, that's a musical. I'm sorry. That's a fundamental musical.
But there were bits where it was beautiful looking. I liked
Absolutely.
I liked the Hotel Arkham stage.
Oh, yeah. I love
and
the bit where...
the Sonny and Cher.
That too.
Kind of show.
The shot that stands out to me is after they're watching... What film are they watching? They're watching some Fred Astaire film.
Yeah.
And then Harley burns a piano and distracts everyone. And the way that they kind of come together while
Yes.
there's a burning piano and the light of a projector.
Cool.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's gorgeous. But that's not direction. That's Lawrence Sher, who's an incredible cinematographer. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make that image really work with all the colors and bits and pieces and get the right lights and smoke and lenses and camera and all that
and there
sort
was
of
a really
stuff.
pretty bit that's been in the trailer where they're like dancing against the backdrop of all the fire.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's a spotlight, and I'm like, more of this energy. Like,
Yeah.
I thought the movie should have felt like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first film was also beautifully shot. Like that, I think that was nominated for best cinematography, as far as I remember.
it was. And
I wouldn't be surprised if this does as well.
but this one, if you're looking at the end of the first Joker movie, he really hurts that psychotherapist in Arkham in the last scene.
Yes, he does.
And then in this one, it's not even mentioned.
no, and that
you'd assumed, oh, like he's fully in this Joker character
Yeah.
now. But at this start and most of this movie, it's not like that. Like he's not
No.
the Joker. Like it's something he kind of did for a minute. He regrets it,
yeah,
and then his fans are disappointed. And,
Yeah.
and then he's murdered. Like, And that's
because
just,
it goes to that pity argument that they want you to feel sorry for him, that, oh, actually, he's actually a mentally ill person, and that was a different personality that came out of him. Or it's like...
they introduced that in the very first scene with the cartoon, like the shadow.
Oh, yeah, the cartoon.
Yeah.
The movie starts with an animated opening reminiscent of Looney Tunes, which actually was inspired by some other particular animated film that I haven't even heard of. But someone else pointed this out to me, and I went, oh my God, see, that which you would think, oh wow, what a really weird way to open a movie, what a very ingenious way to do it. That's not even new to that film. Birds of Prey did that. They started that movie with an animated opening telling Harley Quinn's story. Yeah. But that person pointed out, that movie does that so that way, hey, here's Harley Quinn's story from up to the point where this movie starts. Just so you know, she was in a monastery, she was left on a doorstep, and then went through a bunch of different terrible relationships, found Joker, fell in love with him, then got rejected. Boom, there you go. That's the story of Harley Quinn. But the animated opening of this tries to sort of tell the story of, or in a very sort of eccentric way, how Joker went into the talk show and then got his way onto the stage and then killed Robert De Niro.
So they recontextualize it because it makes it seem like, like it was another personality or something.
They called it
almost.
Me and My Shadow.
Yeah, his shadow, like in the Jungian psychology, there's the shadow, right? That's like all your desires that come out.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess that's true, but
I don't feel like it was true in the first film.
It didn't, It
feels like a retcon more than anything.
It feels, it's like a retcon because they want to push this idea that the Joker creation, it's not, he didn't create it, it was sort of society created it. Like, he didn't call himself Joker. Robert De Niro called him that because they made fun of him, and he only lashed out because he was treated so poorly. Yeah. So it's like this weird symbiosis between he created it and society did it, and now it's become too big, and you've got like basically he's got a legion of fans who want him to do Joker shit. Yeah. That's kind of the movie. Yeah. And he does it like when he's defending himself in the courtroom, right? Yeah. That's when he puts the makeup on, and they're trying to do the thing where he's going on that rant. Yeah. But in the first movie, when he's doing that, it's ham-handed, but I'm like, he's saying good points.
Yeah, but like,
but in this one, it's like almost
society that rejects us or something like that. But he never does that.
Yeah, this movie. This is all. It's all to like, to what point?
Yeah, I think this is what a lot of audiences have now responded to, is that at the end of the day, like the first movie, as much as I might not have agreed with the direction, there is a point that it was making, which is, hey, this guy is doing this because his the funding for his mental health services got cut, which ended up meaning that he wasn't going to get the help that he needed, and he went down a path which unfortunately is very true for a lot of things that happen in America. People who are mentally ill don't get the help that they need, they go down a dark path, and then they end up, in some ways, and sometimes doing a violent act that horrifies everyone. Yeah. So there's reality there. But there was no reality here. You've got this long, drawn-out court battle, which tries to almost reframe Joker's actions as if he's a type of like Charles Manson or Ted Bundy type person, where his very essence is now inspiring people to see him as a figurehead for something, which I don't know. Like, that's where I think is a very sort of dangerous way of like approaching this story, is putting this pitiful sort of very troubled character and making him this is the issue that I had with the first movie. You've got that bit where he pulls his blood over his face and makes a smile, and all the crowd is cheering for him. Yeah. And the way that it depicts it then is almost like it's a triumphant moment in a sense, and I just feel like that's such a very wrong way of doing things, because then there's nothing else that happens afterwards that leads us to believe that this is something that's going to end up poorly for Joker. Instead, it ends up ending on this sort of like, oh, well, that's life, la 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 la.
I would agree with that, but he does end up institutionalized at the end of the movie.
But he's on the know about, oh, you wouldn't get the joke that I've got in my mind or whatever. Haha. Like I've got the last laugh.
And he seems truly like happy.
Yeah, like, which I can get if you want to pull him down into a dark place, but it doesn't end on a dark note. Instead, it ends on a happy note. But then this second film starts it on a dark note. It should start it on a happier note.
It's basically regressed the character back to how he was in the first
That's
movie.
one of the criticisms that a lot of people are pointing out, is just this weird retcon of almost all of his character development from the first film.
And I think it just points to, like, they're just afraid to make a fucking evil prick like be the main character. And that's really... It's like they'll do anything else. They'll do this meta story about the Joker as a symbol that got out of control, and they'll do this meta narrative about like what that means in society, and you know and fame as well. Like it's this movie's very much about like people.
Well, yeah, that's the
fame fuckers.
The Ted Bundy thing of how he would influence women. Like he was a serial killer against women, but then somehow women still loved him.
And then, but this movie does some very obvious moralizing where it's like, yeah, this guy's obviously a pathetic piece of shit. Like, why would you worship? It's so sad.
Yeah.
And this just feels like a way to not make a really dangerous movie where you make a charismatic lunatic the main character.
Yeah.
They just don't want to do that. And it's like, well, why do this?
Why do this? Because the first movie made $1 billion.
But just go extreme with it. Like, do that natural born killers thing.
I think that's 100% why Lady Gaga was involved in this, because to me, and there's a lot of reports about how they were making this movie where, they were coming up with stuff on the fly and they're writing the script on napkins or whatever, like the day of shooting, which sure, some movies have been made like that.
Yeah.
Mostly under duress. Like they've got no choice. That's the way they have to make it. Other movies where they try and do that, like Megalopolis, for example, where they make things up on the spot. Look what happens with that movie, where it's an incomprehensible, absolute mess. I'm not saying that this movie's on that level, but it definitely has those elements where you can't follow the story very well. Suddenly, everything's changing on the fly. Do you want to give a rating first before we do spoilers?
Oh, man.
We do thumbs up.
Yeah. I gave it a generous, like, what's 3 stars out of 5 for a thumbs up?
5 thumbs up? 6 thumbs up?
I gave it 6 thumbs up in my review, but I'm liking it kind of less.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm about a half, like it's 5 out of 10 or whatever. Like
yeah, I would say I liked it less than the first film, because at least the first film, while I felt nothing for it, was pretty easy to follow. This one was very difficult, and I would say 4 thumbs up. Probably closer to 5, but even the 5 is a generous thing because of production design and cinematography. It's incredible.
That's where I'm putting it, and I really like the performances, and a few of the musical sequences were cool.
Oh yeah,
and
I like some of the songs that they use. Like as songs, I was like, oh, this is a good song. I like this song.
Yeah,
it's a jukebox musical. None of it's original.
And I give them credit for trying something. Like I guess, but it was not successful.
They could have easily tried to milk a franchise out of this.
They did. Yeah, it wasn't like a hack, fucking pissed out piece of whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't.
Some elements felt like that.
It wasn't well done.
No,
but I think it came from like they were trying to be creative and trying to do something.
Well, yeah, I think Todd Phillips still tried to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't being told make a trilogy out of this or something like that.
I think they've made a movie that's kind of interesting to talk about, but it wasn't fun to watch.
No,
and not really enjoyable.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
Yeah, so I'll give it that.
5 thumbs up for both of us then.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah, but I really get why people hate it, because it's just.
Oh yeah, there's people who were definitely on board with what the first movie tried to tell, and this movie kind of sidesteps that and deliberately.
It flies in the face of it.
It says to the people that were fans of it, "Hey, guess what? You're wrong." It's
you were like kind of liking a fucking loser.
So, do you want to do spoilers now?
Yeah, like
spoilers. There you go.
It's the whole thing. Yeah, spoilers. And there's a weird scene near the end where like he comes back from court, right?
Yep.
One of the fucking hundreds of scenes where he's gone back and
oh my god, so repetitive.
It goes on forever.
There's like 5 shots of him just on the bus, going back to the prison. I'm like, couldn't do a montage, and couldn't cut them together.
It's like, look, the shots of Gotham are so pretty, but Jesus, where is this going? And he comes back, and it's sort of implied that the guards rape him.
Yeah,
and it's a really miserable scene. It's really horrible to watch.
Yeah, sorry for any listeners who might be triggered by that, but it is implied sexual abuse.
Yeah, like, and he's in his cell and he's shaking, and it's like, oh my god. And I'm like, why was that scene there?
Yeah,
like why did they do that?
It
felt like shock value.
It went too far. At that point, I was like, okay,
like the guards were like fucking mean to him and fucking with him, but why did they rape him? Like, what? We're gonna sexually humiliate him twice. He's going to be manipulated in a really obvious way.
Yep. reject his missus, but
yeah.
then be rejected by her.
He's not even going to be strong enough to embrace his Joker identity. He's going to actually apologize.
Yeah.
And then,
Almost die from an explosion.
almost die from an explosion.
That just
and
happens
then,
randomly.
And then a random inmate who we see once
Yeah.
will tell him what a fucking disappointment he is,
Yeah.
stab him,
Yeah.
and then the happy song will play, and that will have been the story.
Yeah. And that random inmate is suggested to now be new Joker because he kind of, you can see in the background.
He carves his face.
Yeah. Like Heath Ledger, actually.
Yeah,
Which some people are like, oh, is that a prequel for Heath Ledger?
stupid.
Shut up. No.
Yeah, no, it isn't. That's the dumbest thing.
No.
But obviously you're meant to think he will be a Joker type.
Yeah.
Like,
that he's now influenced, like he lost control of the whole narrative.
Yeah, by like killing Arthur, he's like, he's eaten his essence now and he will be the Joker.
Okay.
Which
yeah.
I guess goes to what they're trying to say with this movie where like that shadow thing has gotten too big for him and now it's consumed him.
That ending point, I actually don't mind. I think, okay, that makes sense. But the problem was, it's like the Game of Thrones thing where the actual ending of the show on a bullet point level makes sense.
Yeah.
John would kill Daenerys because she's gone crazy and all the Stark children would disappear.
It's just incredibly unsatisfying.
No, because all the progress that you got to that point felt odd and you didn't earn it enough.
It wasn't earned. I don't know why that psycho killed him. I mean, something about him being because he won't be the Joker.
Just some random bloke who just looked at him once.
Yeah, and I don't know why the guards set him up.
That's right. The guards did set him up.
They did set him up. I don't really know why.
And the main problem I had, and I mentioned this to you after we come out of the screening, was the moment where Joker switches, where there's this the whole courtroom debate is whether or not Arthur Fleck is fully in control of the Joker personality, and it gets to a point where he dons the makeup and lives it up and really kind of gets the crowd onto his side. And then, as you mentioned, he gets sexually abused, and then his random guy friend that he's met at
Gary, the short fellow from
no, the guy from the asylum.
Oh yeah,
he gets choked out.
Choked out.
Yeah, by Brendan Gleeson, who's in this movie as one of the guards.
Yeah.
So the main guard of Arkham Asylum. He gets choked out. He dies, and that is the thing that makes Arthur change his mind and says, "No, sorry, Joker isn't real." But my problem was the courtroom scene we had pretty much just before that involved Lee Gill as Gary Puddles, who was in the first movie. He's a
short fellow.
He's the little person friend that he has, who he was nice to, even though all the people that he worked with were all mean to and made short jokes for. And he, in the first film, spares him because he says, "You were always nice to me, Gary." It's like unfortunately, it kind of reminded me of like how school shooters will not do that to people that actually were nice to them. They'll usually target other kids. That's kind of one of the sort of main parallels was people who commit violence will do it to people that they either don't know or hate.
And he returns in this movie to, I guess, testify about what happened.
And his performance, holy hell, that
best scene in the movie.
That made me like actually feel emotional.
Definitely.
Because he's a great actor and he's just pouring his heart out saying, "How could you have done that? I was always so nice to you and I couldn't sleep." And this is the movie's supposed to be 2 years after the first film.
Yeah.
He's like, "I couldn't sleep for years. I couldn't get work because, they knew that I was working for the same place."
It's ruined his life.
Yeah, it's absolutely destroyed his life. And at no point does any part of Arthur, who we know is Arthur and the Joker, they're pretty much the same person. This whole narrative of them being two people, I just reject because it doesn't make sense to me based on what you've already shown me as a film. So there's no point of Arthur where he actually acknowledges that level of sympathy for a person that he already spared. In fact, he goes out of his way to continuously insult and belittle him and like draw like little drawings and say like, "Oh, Gary Puddles." And he keeps making fun of his name as well.
I will, in defense, when he brings that up, he does get like, I don't know, like I think he feels empathy, like the Joker, like he's like, "Oh," like, and then, but he's pushing through it because
he's got that moment. But to me, it just would have made, it doesn't make sense for me that he would see that it would be depicted in that way and for it to basically not affect him. The only way that it does affect him to change his mind about the whole Joker thing is from some super extreme thing that happens later, which just went too far.
Yeah, which felt out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And didn't, like, why would that make him reject the Joker? I mean, that didn't really make sense.
No, absolutely. They completely... I made this argument, and I don't know if you agree. I think that every single musical sequence in this film could have been cut out, and you wouldn't have changed anything.
No, I agree.
I said this to you.
Extraneous.
When I watch musicals, I used to not like them, but I started to watch the good ones and realized, oh, this is what they're supposed to be. Yep. And there's definitely an element here that they're trying to go for, like Bob Fosse, the way that Bob Fosse has directed films in the past, particularly All That Jazz. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Where that will have musical and very sort of surreal dance sequences, but they are worked into the fabric of the story. It doesn't get to this moment where, in this film, something's happening, they're having a conversation or the courtroom scene's going on, and then suddenly cut to black, lights go out, and then suddenly, now let's do a lounge song like Frank Sinatra or something like that from the 50s. And sing that whole number and do this dance, and it's only just Joker and Harley doing their stuff, but it's entirely a fantasy sequence, and then it's over, and then it cuts straight back to reality, and it only does that. There's no point where it ends up blending reality with fiction. It only says, this is the real story, the musicals are the fantasy stuff, and that to me is a broken way of making a musical, because now I don't feel like the music is at all important to the story that you're trying to tell. It's just now what's going on in their head. It's like, okay, that's fine, but I just never. You were talking about the Sonny and Cher thing, like the way that they depict Joker and Harley coming out and doing a sort of show, like a variety show from the 70s, and that point Harley shoots Joker in the fantasy sequence, and that's supposed to reflect Harley rejecting Joker.
It foreshadows it, and they tie it back in the end when she does reject him, right? Yeah.
But why do we need that? Or what if it was just one and the same? That Sonny and Cher bit, it was all a fantasy. Make it a fantasy. That's what musicals are. They are a heightened level of telling stories in a very theatrical way. So make it a full-on fantasy. Go surreal with it. Actually take that risk. But Todd Phillips doesn't fundamentally understand what a musical's supposed to do.
It's muddled. I feel like they should have still done the shooting thing, but she should have shot Arthur.
Yeah.
Not when he's in Joker makeup.
No, exactly.
Because that was the whole idea, is like she doesn't give a fuck about Arthur. She's trying to bring the Joker out of him.
Yeah. So I just and look, I already knew that we were going to get to this point where Todd Phillips kept saying over and over again that this isn't a musical, that this is just a movie with music, as I said before. And then we see that in this film, that it's just a jukebox musical with musical sequences that are totally disconnected from the actual story they're telling. And they're just an excuse to get Lady Gaga, one of the best sort of, modern performers, to perform against Joaquin Phoenix, who, don't get me wrong, he's actually been, performing himself. He was Johnny Cash, Walk the Line.
But unfortunately, he sounds quite bad.
Well, that was actually Lady intentional. Gaga. I looked that up. That was an intentional thing on their part, that they wanted to sound
be raw, right?
Terrible.
Yeah.
But my problem is also,
it's not fun to watch.
No, it's not, because I've also seen like Broadway performances, like sort of, leaked or whatever, of people who are meant to be playing characters who can't sing.
Yeah.
And that's funny. They're trying to not sing well to make it raw and real, like they're actual people who can't sing.
The artistic intention is so muddled.
We know that you can sing, Lady Gaga, because you're Lady Gaga. You are the name
you're
on the poster
is
your stage name.
You're here because you can sing.
It's like if Pink was Harley Quinn and she was labeled as being Pink. Like, we know you're Pink. You're one of the most famous sort of performers, one of the most acclaimed sort of performers, and very popular still to this day. So you're not going to change that narrative by singing a little shit. Sorry, you're just going to sound a little shit, to be honest. And she just kept not sounding very good. The 100% the reason why Lady Gaga is here is because she looked at Joaquin Phoenix getting an Oscar. She looked at the fact that she lost the nomination for A Star Is Born, didn't get a nomination for House of Gucci, which was terrible in its own right, so don't worry about it, and thought, I know how I get my Oscar for performing, because I've always wanted to be an actress, not just a singer. I'll be in the Joker sequel.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, she's good in the movie.
Absolutely.
She delivers a really good performance.
But she's just not used enough.
The material doesn't serve her.
No, not at all. I don't know what more to say about this one. I've got a couple
really.
of...
It's a disappointing movie.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they put all these resources into making something so deliberately unsatisfying to watch.
This was $200 million.
It's like, we don't want to thrill anybody. We want to give him something to think about.
Okay.
which is like, that's an admirable goal.
You can do that.
But you got to really like execute that
Yeah.
really well.
And to me, for this,
yeah.
don't do it on a $200 million budget, because that movie's not going to make that much money. Like, the first movie was trying to make people think or whatever, but that was done on like a 50 or 60 or I think it was like high as $70 million.
Yeah.
That's fine, because it's still Joker, so you still got the comic book fans or whatever. But a lot of people started to go to it because it was becoming a conversation.
I think
that's how it got to $1 billion.
Well, I think they've taken... I think since Heath Ledger did the Joker in The Dark Knight, the Joker, and he won the Oscar, and it's obviously an all-timer of a performance.
Yep.
The Joker character has kind of become this thing he's not meant to be, which is like this super prestigious, way too iconic character for his own good. And it's become like self-conscious and self-serious.
Which is why I'm actually kind of excited for what Barry Keoghan can do,
but that's I don't like that either, because they've made that Joker too disgusting. Like they
might probably change it.
They should change it.
I would imagine that they kind of slightly retcon.
If you put
some
like
elements.
comic booky Joker in the Batman, it's unsettling because he's so it's such a dissonance.
That's why I think, you got Heath Ledger as the sort of upper tier of a lot of performances, but then if you're looking at the Joker that you want reflected from the comics, you got Mark Hamill. And sure, that's animated or is a voice. No, he is the Joker. If I'm reading a comic book and it's got Joker laughing, I hear Mark Hamill's laugh. And there's the other issue that I have. And this is probably a really small criticism of this film and Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think he laughs very well. It's always such a I know it's meant to be a fake laugh because he's an actor or whatever, but when he laughs, I don't even feel terror. It's just like,
they're not even going for that.
No.
They're doing it. That's what I mean. They're trying to make it this like prestige thing. Like, oh, he's actually afflicted with this condition where when he's in pain, he laughs.
Well, that's meant to be inspired by, was it The Man Who Laughs, the Conrad Veidt film from the 20s, I think it was, where it's this guy who can't help but smile.
Yeah, and you've turned this maniacal cackle into something pitiable and hard to watch.
Yeah.
And that's what, philosophically, these two movies where I'm just sort of diverging from them because it's like, you've propped it up and it's become a bloated mess of artistic intentions that don't align neatly. And this is the end result of that, where you've just got this kind of horrible movie that doesn't satisfy, not horrible.
No, but like it's
just
very unsatisfying.
This really limp movie
that
has pretensions of being deep, and people are just like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
people are for the most part turning away. I mean, the box office numbers are there that it's like less than half of what the first film has done.
Get what you fucking deserve.
Well, yeah, and I said this to you before. At this point, it's looking to be like a similar situation to Captain Marvel to the Marvels, where Captain Marvel made $1.3 billion.
Yeah, and the follow-up was a flop.
Yeah, the Marvels it barely made 200.
But I think enough people are interested in this one. I don't think it will flop. It definitely won't be as successful financially. I think enough people will watch it, but it will be a disappointment.
I think the issue is also, as I said, Joker, because it was also coming out at awards time, so it was actually it came out at like the Venice Film Festival. It actually started getting...
Well, it had a lot of hype. It won the Golden Lion.
It had hype, it had acclaim, it had the conversation angle, which ended up pushing it all the way through the October period 2019.
Yeah.
This year, however, it just doesn't, to me, seem like it's going to have those kinds of legs. I think it's going to get eaten up.
I'm not saying it's going to be nearly as successful. No. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to be a terrible flop, but I could be wrong.
We'll see how that goes. But I feel nothing. I still feel nothing. I just feel nothing from this whole enterprise.
The movie couldn't support its admirable intentions. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not going to call it a piece of shit.
No.
Because it's just not. But
it's better than Megalopolis. There you go.
Yeah, that one. Oh my god. Yeah,
a lot of things are actually.
It's much better than that. But I don't know. Kind of a bummer. I was looking forward to this movie. I thought the trailers looked really good. Mm-hmm. I did have that sneaking feeling, and I think I told you, I was like, I feel like there's not going to be much Joker in this.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you think?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck boy, was I didn't know how right I was.
From the get-go, I was just like, you're going to have to do a lot to really kind of draw me out from this funk of not liking the first movie. If I don't like the first movie, you're going to have to do a significant load more to get me to like the sequel that is so tied heavily to that first film and almost like says that the first film doesn't matter or it kind of rips it apart in some way.
Yeah.
And even as someone who doesn't like the first film, I go, well, I actually definitely don't like that because
Yeah.
now I'm 100% not on board with anything you're doing.
Yeah. Probably good that they're ending it here. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's enough.
He
of
said
this.
Todd Phillips said, that's it. I'm
Yeah.
done. I don't want any more. Thank you.
No.
I'll go make some other generic ripoff of a better movie, which he almost consistently does.
Eh,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe he does.
Would you like to move on?
Yeah, what do we got now?
We got channel surfing.
Let's go surfing now. Everybody's learning how. Come on.
Oh, cool. I'll go first.
Go for it.
So I took a day off Friday. I needed one. Thursday night, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I'll take this weed brownie that I've had stashed. Popped that in, let it kick in, and for the first time, I watched Apocalypse Now,
Oof.
which I've never even seen, and now I'm in space. I'm in space watching this movie.
That is both the most perfect and worst way to watch that movie.
Yes, I mean, I've heard. Obviously, I know about the movie. Like, it's a fever dream. It's insane. This, that, and the third. Wow, what a brilliant piece of art.
Yeah,
it is.
we're discussing this before. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so modern. It could be made today.
Oh yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like Portrait of Madness. Like, I feel like if it was made today by like a Denis Villeneuve or a Christopher Nolan, it would kind of be this, like, the dread would be there, but it would be kind of one note.
Yeah.
But what I loved about this movie is it felt legitimately insane.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, there's an undercurrent of humor.
Yeah.
And absurdism.
Oh yeah.
And
And
like,
the Vietnam War was absurd.
it was absurd.
Yeah.
And when they're killing those civilians on the boat for really no reason,
Yep.
it's almost funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was I was high, but their frustration,
that could definitely be it.
their frustration at what they had to do and the pointlessness of it, and they're just getting closer to stark raving lunacy.
Yep.
Was just, and that there's this child who has a big gun, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yep,
Like
yeah.
a
Oh
child,
my God,
like,
yeah.
because there were kids in this war.
Actually, even Lawrence Fishburne himself was.
He was a kid.
He's like 18 or something like
he
that.
was a kid, and he looks every inch a kid. And, you know, you're watching just a kid walk around in these conditions. It's almost funny.
Yeah.
And by the end, when you're getting to Colonel Kurtz, and like he's saying he saw these little arms and he wanted to weep like some grandmother.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And kind of a funny image.
It's
but
just-
it's so true. Like, seeing something like that would bring out some kind of like matriarchal despair at like the horror, how horrid the human
I would
condition
100% argue that I don't think there's ever been another Vietnam War type film that's kind of got
This-
Full Metal Jacket kind of, and it does that sort of humor level,
Yeah.
obviously.
This movie, to me, I've never been to war,
No.
but it's got to be the best depiction of war, because like the brotherhood stuff and all that, like obviously with war movies, they play up a lot of the positive aspects of like pressure under fire, courage under fire, brotherhood.
Yep.
You know,
Mateship is also the
being
big
all
thing,
you
yeah.
can be. It's almost like propaganda.
Yep.
But this one, it's like you're stepping into like insanity, and you're either going to completely break, or you're just going to become part of it. Like
Yep.
Robert Duvall talking about surfing while they're napalming villages.
Mm-hmm.
And just him saying, oh, you know, I love the smell of, obviously that famous line, I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yep.
It smells like victory. And then him just saying, someday this is going to end. It's so funny.
I know.
Like,
but he's
it's
still just
so
like,
dark.
but it's also part of this whole rant about like, you know, oh, the surf, it's breaking over there.
Yeah.
Where's the boards or whatever? And the dude's trying to surf on the actual waves.
And like
there's bombs going off.
The whole movie, because they obviously have this goal to kill a rogue soldier,
Yep.
Colonel Kurtz. And the whole movie has this vibe like when you have a nightmare, when you're trying to accomplish something and get to somewhere, and you keep getting in these like diverted and distracted, and it's making you slowly crazier. And then the dream just kind of ends anticlimactically.
Yep.
And that's the same as this movie. And it's absolutely brilliant. And my God, it's a beautiful thing that Francis Ford Coppola has made this and made Megalopolis. Like, if you want to see the full arc of an artistic journey,
God, yeah.
it's all there. So I'm kind of glad Megalopolis exists, because it's
Because
like
now it makes those movies look better.
you just see the whole thing.
Yeah.
You get a whole picture of this man.
Yeah.
And like, you know, obviously he put it all on the line to make Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did it pay off. Like, it just oozes, you know, soul.
Did you watch the documentary?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Hearts of Darkness.
Yes,
Which is
and-
directed by his late dear wife, Eleanor.
Yeah, beautiful documentary too. Almost, it is as good as the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And man, what a I can't say enough good. I'm going to watch it when I'm sober again sometime. But watching it high was like the perfect experience.
Did you appreciate the sound design, especially the opening
Yes,
sequence where it
yes.
goes from like the left and right audio channels?
Yes,
Walter
absolutely.
Murch did the sound design. He's just one of the best of all time.
And the use of the Doors song, you couldn't have picked a better song.
God, yeah.
And just the scene of when they're all getting pumped up by the Playboy Bunny Entertainment and the Wagner playing as the chopters come in. It's so American.
Yeah.
Like this giant spectacle.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's absurd.
Yeah.
And it's tragic.
Yeah.
And you're disgusted, but you're like, wow, that's impressive at the same
Yeah.
time. So really, it's the ultimate American movie.
Yeah.
It's the most American movie.
But then
One
it
of
can
the
also,
top
then I
American
can also
movies.
say to them, hey, yeah, we're doing all of this stuff. What the hell are we doing this for again?
Yeah.
Oh, like, why?
But like, because they were obviously all on drugs when making the movie.
Yep.
And I was on drugs watching it.
And
I
also
was,
the soldiers who were in the war were also probably on
They
drugs
were.
as well, yeah.
They were.
Or just
So I was-
aerosol drugs.
I was just vibing with it so hard, and 11 out of 10, 11 thumbs up out of 10 thumbs up.
You just look at him just going, drugs. Yeah, drugs good.
This movie feels like a sweet dessert being poured in my throat, and
Yeah.
before it becomes too much, they're giving me some nice cold water.
Yeah.
It's just so perfectly tuned somehow.
You hadn't seen it before?
No, because I
my
felt like I
God.
had to be in the mood to watch this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I never felt myself in the right headspace to take it on.
Yep.
But at this point, I was like, I got time. I'm going to get a little high. I'm ready to watch it.
Absolutely.
And I watched it at exactly the right time. It's so tragic and beautiful and just a must watch, of course. I'm late to the party here.
No, that's fine. But like, you appreciate cinema, so you can get to this point and
Yeah.
go to something like that and go, oh.
Like, I could appreciate The Godfather when I was 15.
Oh, yeah.
I could not appreciate this when I was 15.
I don't think I appreciated that much when I first watched. I think I was like 17 when I
Yeah,
first watched it.
I think you have to like have a certain amount of life experience to appreciate
Absolutely.
Apocalypse Now and like understand.
Not just that, but it's also you have to start to like watch more movies to
Yes.
appreciate what they're really doing and why
Yeah.
it's different and why they did certain
Yes.
things. Like I was saying with the sound design, like not many people are going to really appreciate, as I said, that the sound goes from the left to the right audio channel, which wasn't really a thing in like late 70s.
No.
Like to do that was like actually going straight into full on psychedelic type of sound design mixed with music, mixed with visuals in a modern motion picture that's got the full backing of a studio made by one of the premier filmmakers working today. The closest we've got to that is, you said Denis Villeneuve, like making Dune Part 2 and getting
Yes.
all the surreal images there. That's the closest I think that we can get to at this point. Either that or Jordan Peele. Like how he puts a lot of very crazy things in
And
his
they're great.
movies.
They don't touch this.
No, it
Like,
doesn't get to that.
yeah.
Still doesn't get to that
They
level.
do not touch this. And this will never be touched, probably.
And Coppola never really got to that point because the 80s were a horrible decade for him. And the only kind of close...
I think he put everything he had into that. And that was it.
I think it absolutely killed a part of himself.
It killed him to make this movie.
The closest he then got to something that was that kind of gaudy and like, haha, look at the sort of operatic level, epic sort of scope was like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
And that's still a great movie anyway. I love that, but it doesn't get to that level. And then he's tried it again with Megalopolis and still doesn't get there. I'm sorry, man.
No.
I think it broke a part of yourself and you have to be okay with that one.
Yeah.
I watched Rebel Ridge.
I've heard
on
of that.
Netflix.
Don Johnson.
Holy shit. Oh, not just Don Johnson. Aaron Pierre, who is a name you have to remember because that dude, I already love this dude because I first saw him in M. Night Shyamalan's Old. He was
I heard about that
mid-sized
one.
sedan, just like I think it was the first bloke that dies, the first guy that they meet on the beach, and he just had this very interesting look because he's a black man, but he's from the UK, so he's got a mix of a lot of other like I think it's West African and I think a bit of Caribbean sort of heritage. So he still like has this resemblance, but he also has green eyes, and they're so
Cool.
distinctive.
Yeah,
They really
it's a cool
stand
look.
out. And then I watched Barry Jenkins' miniseries, The Underground Railroad. Where he had
That's out?
Yeah.
What's that out on?
that was on Amazon Prime, but that came out 2021.
Right.
Brilliant. That is 100% one of the things you need to watch on the right headspace.
Yes.
When try not to watch it when you're feeling really blue because
Yeah.
it will bring you down a lot further.
I love his Moonlight movie.
Yes, Moonlight is incredible, and If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yeah.
Oh, that score from that is just incredible.
Oh, I love listening to that.
Yes. Aaron Pierre, incredible. I was already a fan of him. and to see him in Rebel Ridge, which was supposed to be John Boyega. He was supposed to be the lead role.
Oh yeah, I think.
But
I've heard something like
he
that.
left for various reasons. And honestly, good choice. Like,
Yeah.
I love John Boyega anyway. I think he's a good actor. That's fine. But Aaron Pierre, this is his star moment. There's now one of the most popular movies on Netflix so
Yeah,
far.
so it's worth a watch, is it?
Absolutely. It's a thriller that you don't necessarily expect to go the way that it goes. It starts like really quickly. It goes straight into the main sort of crux of the narrative almost immediately. There's not this sort of establishing sort of part, which I think is one of those after effects of how like streaming movies, they always care about the first 30 seconds. If people aren't really attached to something in the first 30 seconds, they'll turn off. That's what they've done algorithms or whatever the hell for. So this one's perfect in that way, where it does start very quickly, but not in the sense that it feels like it's been chopped or changed. It is 100% the director's vision to make this movie this way.
Sure.
And it's a very good slow burn. It evolves from being this sort of like Western type story, or sort of like a neo-Western, where a guy goes into a small town. It's obviously got some corruption going around, and he's got his own plot, and he gets mixed up in this whole sort of conspiracy narrative. But it works in a lot of sort of modern police narratives, issues that America has with their police state. And the big thing is, the dude never fires a bullet. He does all of this, and he's such an incredible action presence, and not once does he ever fire an actual bullet or ever mean to kill. It reminded me, there's a part of the film where he starts using a grenade launcher that's just firing smoke grenades.
Yeah.
It's like Terminator 2, where he's
nice.
using the Gatling gun,
Yeah.
doesn't kill a single cop.
That's
That's what
cool.
it is. And this dude, oh my God. The movie itself is really, really good. It's a little long, and it doesn't, it chugs along like it's a slow burn, but it always has a really good pace. You might not expect the ending. It kind of does end in this point where you think, oh, okay, there you go. All right, it doesn't stop, but it just kind of hits this point where it goes, yep, there we go. We've told the narrative, and that's all you need. It's
Yeah,
like,
sometimes you like an ending like that.
and that almost makes up for the 2 tons of crap that Netflix has put out movie-wise for the rest of the year. Almost. It's
Yeah.
a great film, but oh boy, have they released a whole heck of a lot of crap.
Yeah, that's their MO, isn't it?
Yeah, at this point. Was there anything else you watched?
No, I'm not really watching anything else at the moment. Obviously, I watched the second episode of Penguin, really good. Looking forward to more of that. Yeah, I guess I'm just rewatching Seinfeld.
I finished Rings of Power.
How was it?
It's okay. The
I can't get into that show.
the 7th episode was amazing. That
Really
actually,
amazing.
I texted this to my brother. It felt like watching those second last episodes of Game of Thrones seasons.
Oh, it was a big
When-
epic one.
Yeah, it was a huge battle. It involved, like, it was just very focused story-wise on, like, just these characters. Just, like, the dwarves and the elves. Where are they? What are they doing? None of the Hobbit stuff.
Yeah.
None of that. And none of Numenor, which I think is, God, my,
That stuff was interminable from
it got worse.
that I
This
watched,
season,
yeah.
Numenor started getting slightly better. The Hobbit stuff was,
yeah, I don't know what's worse.
never got better.
Yeah.
And I like the people who are in it. Like, they seem to be having, doing a nice job or whatever. But
fuck 'em.
I'm sorry, but that screams to me of, well, the films did the Hobbits, so therefore we need to do Hobbits. No,
That's what this whole show feels like. It just feels like the iconography, and they're trying to do it, but it doesn't make sense in the canon.
it's literally Lord of the Rings leftovers. They're just
Yeah.
picking and choosing, saying, Tom Bombadil wasn't
Like,
in
it doesn't
films,
even.
so let's put him in the
why,
show.
Why is Saruman like he's not evil at this point, but they've got him there as like an evil wizard.
You mean what, Saruman?
Yeah,
Where is he in the show?
he's the evil wizard.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah,
I thought they might have been.
Kieran
but-
Hines. He's Saruman.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they never say it in the show. They keep calling him the Dark Wizard.
Well, it's bullshit. It's like what they're doing with Gandalf in the show. It's like they're not calling him Gandalf.
Oh,
But
they call him Gandalf at the end of the second season. He says, Gandalf, that's what my name will be. I'm like, we know. You fell from a star and you found a stick and you're friends with hobbits. What else do you want us to know? Like, it's so obvious. And I'll say this. If you're going to watch Rings of Power, skip all the Hobbit scenes. Absolutely, they make no difference in the narrative whatsoever, and I doubt that they will for the rest of the season they want to do. Just watch the elf stuff. It's still a little dull, but the 7th episode really did get me and made me think, oh wow, that was very well done. Last episode, it was fine. I was skipping a lot of it. Again, you're going to need to do a whole lot more for this next season, which we'll make in 2 more years. This is my problem. It's the same modern streaming thing of they want to do these big shows that cost $1 billion, but then they want to drag them out for a decade and only do five seasons.
They're
or whatever.
treating Lord of the Rings like it's Star Wars or the Marvel universe. Like
Star Wars is now being treated like it's Game of Thrones.
Like it's a sandbox. You can do whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't do whatever. Like it's written by a guy.
Star Wars is no better, where they're saying, oh, Mandalorian, oh, that's now a franchise. I'm like, no, Star Wars is the franchise. It's a story. You can do the story, tell the story, finish the story, and say, there you go, it's all done. Now, on to the next thing. No. Now we have to have this interconnected narrative with Ahsoka and Boba Fett and the heir to the Empire, and they're going to bring the Thrawn trilogy. They're probably going to do CGI Luke's. I'm digressing. Just
fuck all that. But
Rings of Power, meh. It was okay. It's not terrible. It was okay. But
I'll watch some random clips on YouTube. I think that should wrap us up, right?
Yeah, we could probably wrap it up now. So shoot us an email at moviesarebackpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Instagram and Threads at moviesareback. And we are MRB Podcast on Twitter. We're now on Spotify and Amazon Music. So give us a follow and 5-star reviews, all of that good stuff there. And thanks for tuning in.
Cool. Bye,
Hooray.
babies.
See ya.